It is the fourth Sunday of Advent. The word Advent and adventure have something in common, especially in today's liturgies. The adventure, the coming toward, the going toward. We are watching the adventure of God, in a way, sneaking up on us. I'm from a very, very Irish family, and I had a very Irish grandfather, Charlie O'Connor, who believed in the wee people and had us believing in the wee people. And the wee people were always in Grandpa's house. And out of nowhere he was, did you see him? I said, yeah. I just saw his back heel, or the flowing garment, or the wee people, they could climb. We lived on in a second floor flat, and they could come up and peek in the windows. Did you see them? Just barely saw them. They were very sneaky, but they were watching. And they were good if you were good. We also had a program on the radio, and they would read us a story. This was during Advent, leading up to Christmas. Stories, fairy tales or something, that would talk about goodness and themes that are of Advent, of adventure. But to hear the story, you had to look at the radio and say, okay, boys and girls, say, I have been good. And then everyone would say it, I have been good. And you would hear the book open. But once or twice, the book would start to open and then close. And some of us had not been good. And everyone knew it was they. They were the ones who were not good. So that there was a sense that we weren't good, and the wee people were knowing it, and Santa Claus, elves knew it, and Santa knew it, and God knew it. So with that in mind, this sneakiness, we are reading from Matthew's Gospel these weeks. We've been reading about John the Baptist, different ways. Today we have the beginning of the beginning. It's very helpful to remember that Matthew's Gospel is written for people who knew the Jewish tradition, who lived the Jewish tradition. And it's the beginning of a new kind of Judaism, or a new kind of trusting in God, which would be called Christianity, because of the coming of a new people, it's the Jewish people believing that the Messiah has come. So in today's Gospel, for the last Sunday of Advent, the fourth Sunday, put your mind in the Jewish modality, which is accustomed to mystical, to God speaking through burning bushes and lightning and voices and visitors, but always never convincing, never clinching, but always inviting. Never, in a way, coming right out and saying it. I remember teaching sophomore English, can you imagine, to boys. And when we took poetry, they would say, well, why didn't he just come right out and say it? That's a good question. I'd say, well, that's an essay. This is a literary form. Yeah, but it's clearer in an essay. Little by little, you hope that they get the mystical, the invitational, the not being convinced but invited. That's what Matthew's gospel is. It's a little poetic. So we have dreams a lot in Matthew's gospel because God in Matthew's gospel is always, in a way, quiet. It doesn't come right out and say it. It's always invitation. And so you say, well, did you see it? And there's a way of listening to the sneakiness of God in this gospel, in this Advent. That there are people who walk with cowboy boots that are noisy. They're very hard heels, and it's very easy to know that they're coming down the hall. And they want to be known that they're coming, and the shoes give them a sense of power and swagger. God, in Matthew's gospel, comes in slippers, gently, invitingly, not demandingly. There's an invitation to Mary. And she doesn't know how do you get pregnant through the Holy Spirit? And Joseph saying, how do you divorce the person you love, the person you expected to spend your life with? How do you get rid of them in this biblically legal culture? And God sneaks up on Joseph in a dream and says, take her. She is okay. She has not violated the law. God has snuck up on her, and God is sneaking up on you. Can you see it though, Joseph? Can you see the dream? Can you see that this is of God? And the Jewish readers or listeners to this gospel say, yeah, that's the way God is. No cowboy boots or trumpeting or convincing. It's all invitation. It's all trusting. And so Joseph in the gospel, not with a good reason, but with good faith, takes Mary. And in the Jewish tradition, he will be called Joshua. Jesus is a form of Joshua. The people know that name. And the name of the child, according to Joseph, the dream to Joseph, he will save his people. That's his name. But he will come quietly. He will not put a hammerlock on everybody. And he will not say, I will be good to you if you are good to me. Have you been a good boy? Have you been a good girl? Yes, the book would open. But some days, no. The book of the gospel is always open. But it's sneaky. It's not convincing. It's consoling. It's inviting, not indicting. And Jesus is born, as we'll see next week, next Christmas Day, very quietly. For us these days, can we take some time, not with loud Christmas distractions. There are, I know, parties and everything. But quietly to let God sneak up on you. Quietly, like receiving the Eucharist. Quietly, gently. That in the Eucharist, have you been a good boy or girl? That's not the question. Are you humble enough? Are you worthy enough? By my definition of you, can you let me be Jesus? Can you let me be he who saves God's people? Then the Christmas gift comes to us quietly, and we say, did you see it? We wait now, quietly, when we can, to just watch for the goodness of God peeking at us, not saying, "Aha, I caught you." No, the wee people, they're seeing us, how good we are. And the book of the Eucharist is always open to us. Not collapsed because we weren't good. He who saves his people is quietly coming to us. Can you see it?